Remember when I said the OnePlus 9 Pro is my favorite Android smartphone of 2021 yet? Well, the Vivo V60 Pro Plus came this close to replacing it. Now, while OnePlus is trying to win you over with its Hasselblad partnership, Vivo is trying to do something very similar with its Zeiss collaboration. While the camera hardware on the X60 Pro Plus is very impressive, there are some obvious compromises. Now, is the camera performance on the Vivo X60 Pro Plus good enough for you to overlook these compromises? Well, I'm Arshad, you're watching MySmartPrice, and this is our deep dive review of the Vivo X60 Pro Plus and camera comparison against the OnePlus 9 Pro. Let's get this video started. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever MySmartPrice puts out an awesome new tech video. That the X60 Pro Plus is a stunner is actually a given. It is by far one of my favorite smartphone designs out there. And I can say this with no hesitation, the X60 Pro Plus looks better than the OnePlus 9 Pro. The vegan leather back is the nicest feeling rear textures on a phone. Plus it is lighter and more compact than the OnePlus 9 Pro. The carefully chiseled structure and gentle curves ensure that the in-hand feel is just sublime. I'd say this is the best in-hand experience on a flagship smartphone out there. Furthermore, the two-step camera module does jut out from the rear, but it looks so well built and premium. I also really appreciate the minimal Vivo logo carved out of the vegan leather back. What's also great is the metal frame has a soft matte finish, further adding to the comfort factor. The slim metal buttons feel clicky enough. The Type-C port sits at the bottom alongside the SIM card tray and the speaker grill. In order to keep the phone slim and light, it doesn't come with a headphone jack, which is not very surprising. Now, while everything is great about the design of the X60 Pro Plus, one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb is the fact that you don't get IP certification, which is available on the OnePlus 9 Pro, which gives it definitely a bit of an edge. But if it comes to design awards, I'm pretty sure that Vivo is going to be winning all the awards out there. Now, one of the reasons why the Vivo X60 Pro Plus feels more well put together and comfortable to use is a smaller display size. You get a curved AMOLED panel, slightly more so than the OnePlus 9 Pro. It measures 6.56 inches diagonally and is a Full HD Plus panel with a 120Hz refresh rate. Yes, as far as the display resolution goes, the OnePlus 9 Pro is better with QHD Plus resolution. But in daily life, I actually use the OnePlus 9 Pro in FHD Plus, and when I use the S21 Ultra, I was using in Full HD resolution only. Therefore, it doesn't really matter to me that you require a QHD Plus resolution on a flagship phone, but it could to you. As for the quality of the panel, I will tell you this, it can get really bright outdoors and indoors. Plus, it has a theoretical maximum brightness of 1300 nits while watching HDR content on supported streaming platforms such as Netflix. In fact, I found the auto brightness to be far more reliable on the X60 Pro Plus compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro. Moreover, you get the option to switch to a professional color tuning as well for neutral colors. You also have the option to cycle between 60Hz, 120Hz constant and smart switch refresh rates. The refresh rate is so good that the display just glides when you touch and has a fast touch sampling rate for gaming too. Additionally, there is a fun customizable always-on display. As for the in-display fingerprint scanner, it is at the same low position as the OnePlus 9 Pro. It is pretty fast to unlock the phone, and so is the face unlock mechanism. Now, while the haptic feedback is provided by a precise motor, it is not as good as the OnePlus 9 Pro's feedback. You get a thin vibration effect on the X60 Pro Plus as opposed to the weighty one on the OnePlus 9 Pro. Overall, the display on the Vivo X60 Pro Plus didn't disappoint me at all. I would say that this is flagship grade for sure, but when you're comparing it directly against the OnePlus 9 Pro, it has an edge with its QHD Plus resolution support and of course the slightly better haptic feedback as well. Now, if you've come this far, don't forget to hit the like button and maybe even comment below so that YouTube algorithm can actually recommend this video to more people looking for Vivo X60 Pro Plus reviews and comparison with the OnePlus 9 Pro. Coming to the pièce de résistance of the Vivo X60 Pro Plus, its camera setup. You get 4 cameras on the rear, a 50 megapixel 1x1.31 inch Samsung GN1 sensor attached to a super wide f/1.59 aperture lens, a 32 megapixel 2x telephoto that Vivo has dubbed a portrait lens since it has a 50mm prime lens, a 48 megapixel ultra wide angle gimbal camera, and an 8 megapixel 5x periscope zoom camera. Apart from this, you also get a Zeiss T-Star coating for reduced ghosting and flaring on the main camera. On the front, there's a 32 megapixel selfie shooter. Let's actually start with the performance of the selfie camera since I was not very satisfied with the one on the OnePlus 9 Pro. Honestly, I could barely tell the difference between the two in regular daylight selfies, except for the fact that the Vivo X60 Pro Plus offers a better color temperature. Also, the Vivo X60 Pro Plus does a slightly better job on the dynamic range on my face and my facial tones. Details are equally good too, but against the light, the Vivo X60 Pro Plus does not clip the highlights in the background and controls the noise really well in the darker portions of the image. In selfie portraits again, the X60 Pro Plus does a better job in regular and in HDR mode. And as for the low light selfies, the Vivo X60 Pro Plus just bulldozes over the OnePlus 9 Pro. That said, I don't know why Vivo tends to take smoothened out whitened selfies in the Super AI night mode. There's also no way to switch it off. Moving on, we'll talk about the human subject pictures because I know that a lot of you requested for it. So I went around shooting pictures of myself using the main camera, mind you, not the selfie camera. I actually switched it around. Now, these are the downsides of actually working as a lone warrior, unfortunately. As you can tell, the facial tones and the overall color temperature is far more accurate on the OnePlus 9 Pro. The Vivo X60 Pro Plus just cranks up the warmth and it just looks too yellow. Against the light, when the phone fires the HDR mode, the OnePlus has this tone mapped look that doesn't look that great. Vivo does a better job of maintaining the dynamic range and the color science consistency whether you're shooting in HDR or not. Now, details on the other hand are equally sharp on both the human subject photos though. Now, if you're shooting portraits, again the OnePlus 9 Pro's facial tones are fantastic, where the X60 Pro Plus has blown out the portion where the light hits my face. But when you look at the edge detection or the background blurring, the X60 Pro Plus definitely does a better job. You also have the option to change the aperture value and the level of the depth in fog blur on the X60 Pro Plus pre or post shoot. But where the Vivo takes a very comfortable lead is in low light portraits, where it offers a brighter, more appealing exposure and a fantastic looking portrait effect too. The OnePlus 9 Pro is no match. Also, you get the special Zeiss Biotar portrait effects simulated by software, and it does look cool, I guess. Let's evaluate the color calibration of the primary cameras. The OnePlus 9 Pro continues to offer a neutral color palette with the reds, blues and greens represented exactly like my eyes saw. The Vivo X60 Pro Plus picks up the primary colors ever so slightly and does make the picture look attractive with an overall warmer look. It is a very iPhone-like look if you ask me. You can see for yourself in the second sample how the reds are slightly more boosted on the Vivo. It does look very appealing compared to OnePlus's flattish look. What kind of colors you prefer will depend on your personal preference. Okay, now let's talk about the texture details. And a lot of comments mentioned in my previous video that the OnePlus 9 Pro tends to over sharpen. Let me explain that in daylight shots, the OnePlus 9 Pro does add sharpening to the outlines and textures, but it doesn't over sharpen it. Over sharpening would actually cause halo around sharpened outlines and add texture noise, both of which are absent here. So the OnePlus 9 Pro in this comparison continues to offer sharper textures from the centers to the corners of the image. For example, take a look at the tall green bushes on the right. The OnePlus just looks so much sharper, and I can assure you this isn't over sharpening at all. It is actually tastefully done sharpening. Also, the IMX 789 is sharper in high resolution shots compared to the GN1. Now, where the Vivo has the OnePlus 9 Pro comfortably beat is in the dynamic range performance. You get such a fantastic control over the highlights, and the sun has been tamed beautifully in the first photo. In the second one, you can clearly see how the OnePlus 9 Pro crushes the shadows, and the X60 Pro Plus does a fantastic job of bringing out all the details. Macros were already pretty sharp and crisp on the OnePlus 9 Pro, but the X60 Pro Plus one-ups it by going even closer by offering a closer focusing range. The ultra-wide-angle camera is also a very high-resolution 48-megapixel sensor, and therefore the X60 Pro Plus offers pretty sharp details. That said, the OnePlus 9 Pro's ultra-wide-angle camera is a better performer with sharper details around the edges thanks to the high-quality freeform lens and more accurate colors, where the X60 Pro Plus tends to add a red cast. The X60 Pro Plus's 2x telephoto sample is actually an 8 megapixel pixel bint image from the 32 megapixel crop, which actually looks crisp enough, but then again the 2x digital zoom of the OnePlus 9 Pro is pretty good here. Similarly, the 3.3x zoom performance of the OnePlus 9 Pro doesn't outrightly overshadow the X60 Pro Plus either. But the 5x telephoto of the X60 Pro Plus does offer slightly crisper textures compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro's digital crop. Although again, it is not outrightly better or anything. Having said that, the X60 Pro Plus definitely has an edge in telephotos. Moving on to the low light shots, even without night mode on, you can see that the X60 Pro Plus offers better light sensitivity and captures more light thanks to the wider aperture. With night mode and nightscape on, the X60 Pro Plus continues to offer better light sensitivity, but OnePlus tends to add to the sharpness and texture noise too as a result. Where Vivo looks soft, OnePlus looks sharp but with artifacts. Both the Vivo and OnePlus offer some fun night mode filters, and you can see how Vivo's night mode cyberpunk filter is actually slightly better looking. Anyway, In the second nightscape sample, the OnePlus 9 Pro does a fabulous job of capturing the right colors and bringing details out from the shadows. But the over sharpening and adding texture noise does get a bit overbearing for this specific shot. A closer look at the bookshelf will tell you that. OnePlus, however, has been pushing update after update, improving the camera performance. So let's see where it lands eventually. In fact, you guys still don't have a phone with you, so I'm presuming that by the time you get one, you actually will have great camera performance from the get-go. In ultra-wide low-light shots with nightscape on, both the phones are pretty good, but the OnePlus 9 Pro offers a more natural color palette compared to the X60 Pro Plus. As for the telephoto low-light pictures, only the X60 Pro Plus offers it, so that's definitely an advantage over there. Now, one of the things I must mention is the X60 Pro Plus was better in shot-to-shot speeds. So if you're an impatient photographer or just want to shoot moving objects, the X60 Pro Plus would easily be the best choice for you. Plus, the app offers so many more features than the OnePlus 9 Pro. Shooting modes such as double exposure, super moon, and long exposure to create light trails or do light painting is absolutely fantastic for a phone camera. These are areas where the X60 Pro Plus easily bests the OnePlus 9 Pro. The X60 Pro Plus's video recording capability is fantastic as well. You can shoot up to HDR10 plus video using the phone. That's only possible on the Samsung Galaxy S21 series now. And therefore, you can see how the dynamic range performance is actually better on the X60 Pro Plus compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro. Now, while shooting regular HDR video, the Vivo can only do it at 4K 30 FPS, but the dynamic range performance is way better than the OnePlus 9 Pro. Although the Vivo X60 Pro Plus makes my voice sound thin in comparison to the full weighty voice of mine captured by the OnePlus 9 Pro. Plus, the environmental noise cancellation is great too. Alright, so we're shooting a 4K 60 FPS HDR video using the OnePlus 9 Pro and 30 FPS using the Vivo X60 Pro Plus. The dynamic range performance is undoubtedly better on the Vivo X60 Pro Plus. Do let me know in the comment section below what you thought about my sound recording, the stabilization, and of course the image quality and colors as well. The Vivo X60 Pro Plus can also shoot ultra-wide video with that gorgeous gimbal stabilization. The immediate advantage is that you get smooth stabilization without cropping the picture, and of course it doesn't have the jitteriness or the jelly effect that you get with EIS. Now, especially when shooting in 4K 30 FPS, the footage looks really good. It is just a treat. But 4K 60 FPS doesn't feel as stable for some reason. And if you want to shoot ultra stable mode that also adds EIS and crops the picture, then you will have to be content with 1080p 60 FPS video. 4K HDR video in low light, however, is better on the OnePlus 9 Pro. You get crisper details, nicer colors, and cleaner stabilization as well. You can also shoot nightscape videos with the phones and both look good, but the X60 Pro Plus doesn't offer stabilization, unfortunately. Hey guys, now I'm shooting a video using the front camera on the Vivo X60 Pro Plus and the OnePlus 9 Pro. Do let me know what you thought about the image quality, the image stabilization, and the sound recording. From what I can tell, the facial tones are better on the Vivo, and of course, the stabilization is better on the OnePlus because it's got electronic image stabilization, which the Vivo doesn't have, and also the details seem to be far more better on the Vivo again. Let's check the dynamic range performance when I'm standing against the sun right now. And both seem to be doing a fairly decent job. Now, what I can tell after shooting with both these phones is that the OnePlus 9 Pro offers more neutral colors and crisper details using both the rear and the ultra-wide angle camera. And generally, I found that the human face tones were better in daylight shots. Now, as for the Vivo X60 Pro Plus, you do get better dynamic range performance, telephoto and videos, but also you do get slightly better low light performance as well. Now, if you put the two and two together, I can't really pick an outright winner out here. Alright, coming to the performance, the Vivo X60 Pro Plus is packed to the gills with top-end hardware. You get a Snapdragon 888 system on chip, 12GB of LPDDR5 RAM, and 256GB of internal UFS 3.1 storage. Now, as far as synthetic benchmarks go, the X60 Pro Plus managed to achieve the highest benchmark numbers yet captured by us. The Antutu, Geekbench, and 3D Mark numbers are actually better than the Galaxy S21 Ultra and the OnePlus 9 Pro. But more importantly, the CPU doesn't throttle as much as these phones, and the phone also aced the 3D Mark wildlife stability test. Surprisingly, Vivo has done a relatively good job of optimizing the otherwise power-hungry Snapdragon 888 processor. Don't get me wrong, the phone still does get warm under heavy load and spreads it out to the metal frame, all because of the enormous power on offer. But it definitely doesn't throttle even a bit. I didn't expect Vivo to make a performance monster and take on the OnePlus 9 Pro head on. Additionally, you can expect slightly better RAM performance from the Vivo X60 Pro Plus because of the reason that you do get virtual RAM support on this phone. Now, if you guys don't know what virtual RAM is, we actually have a very good explainer article on our website. Do go and check the link in the description below. What you need to know is that your apps will stay in memory for a longer time compared to other phones. If you're buying the X60 Pro Plus for future-proofing yourself with 5G support, the phone offers more band support than the OnePlus 9 Pro as well. That's definitely an advantage. You get support for N1, N28, N41, N77 and N78 5G bands, which are 3 more than what the OnePlus 9 Pro offers. Furthermore, the 4G performance was fantastic with support for carrier aggregation, and the earpiece quality was great for calls as well. That said, the one area where the X60 Pro Plus falters shortly is in the speaker performance, where the OnePlus 9 Pro takes a clear leap with its stereo setup. The mono speaker on the X60 Pro Plus just doesn't sound very loud or crisp either. In fact, while scrolling through Insta Reels or playing rounds of Call of Duty Mobile, I had to stress to hear the sound clearly. On the contrary, the sound quality through the pass-through Type-C dongle using my One More triple drivers sounded fantastic. I'll tell you why. Because the Vivo X60 Pro Plus actually comes with a dedicated Cirrus Logic DAC inside the phone, which is great for audio nerds like myself. Also, I must appreciate the fact that Vivo actually bundles everything that you might need in a box. You get a case, you get the charger, you get the cable, you get a Type-C dongle. You actually do get a 3.5mm pair of earphones as well. Now, what you get inside the box is actually better packaging than the OnePlus as well. Now, what's not fantastic or premium grade is unfortunately the software. Don't get me wrong, FunTouch OS 11 based on Android 11 has improved by a lot. But there are way too many buts you've got to contend with. Let me break down my experience, starting with the positives. I really like the fact that FunTouch is not a weird mixture of Android and iOS anymore. The UI now offers a proper app drawer and a quick settings panel instead of that weird control center ripoff. I also appreciate the inclusion of Google's Discover feed on the -1 page. You get tons of configurable shortcuts, including the most important 3-finger swipe down to take a screenshot. The dynamic effect options runs deep too. From the option to tweak the fingerprint animation to actually screen on off animation, you can play around with anything. The game mode is actually pretty cool, with the option to switch on 4D vibrations and an eagle eye mode that enhances colors and brightness to spot your enemies better. I also really like how Vivo uses the power of the Snapdragon 888 chip to actually run a windowed version of an app like WhatsApp or Instagram. Now about the negatives. The phone is filled with bloatware from the get-go, including that dratted Moj. Plus, you get a separate V-App store apart from the Play Store that keeps spamming you with notifications. And even the search function throws up results from this store instead of the Play Store. The animations are also purposely slowed down, and that gives you a feeling that the phone is not fast, which it actually is. I actually changed the animation scale settings to 0.5x to make it run faster and smoother. You also cannot search widgets or bulk delete apps from the home screen similar to Oxygen OS, which is something that I find very, very odd. Now, if you ask me, compared to FunTouch OS on the Vivo, I felt that the Oxygen OS running on OnePlus 9 Pro was actually far more sophisticated in comparison. In order to make the phone slimmer and easier to use, Vivo has decided to go with a 4300 mAh battery, which is not only slightly smaller than the OnePlus 9 Pro, but the battery life is actually slightly better on the X60 Pro Plus. Using the Smart Switch refresh rate option as my standard, I got around 5 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time for my very stressful use case. You can get higher if you don't perform too many intensive tasks on the phone. However, charging speeds and charging times are easily bested by the OnePlus 9 Pro. It took me close to 58 minutes to charge the X60 Pro Plus using the bundled charger, but the OnePlus 9 Pro charges in a flat 30-minute time frame. Plus, you don't get support for just any wireless charging. You actually get support for the fastest that I've tested till date, 50-watt wireless charging on the OnePlus 9 Pro. It's a pity then that the Vivo X60 Pro Plus doesn't even offer you wireless charging. Now let's get straight to the point. The Vivo X60 Pro is undoubtedly a better looking phone compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro, and more importantly, it also offers slightly better raw performance as well compared to a OnePlus phone, which is very surprising to be honest. Now as for the OnePlus 9 Pro, you get stereo speakers, you get IP rating, you get wireless charging, and of course the fact that the Oxygen OS experience is far more refined compared to FunTouch OS. Which leaves us with only one thing, and that is the camera performance. See, there's definitely no doubt that the Vivo X60 Pro is a far more versatile camera setup, and the hardware does justice to the performance as well, and you get great picture quality from this phone. Having said that, the OnePlus 9 Pro is definitely no slouch. In fact, in many situations, I actually preferred the 9 Pro over the X60 Pro Plus. Therefore, the Vivo X60 Pro Plus doesn't have a clear lead over the OnePlus 9 Pro when it comes to camera performance. I definitely cannot say that. In fact, the choice between an X60 Pro Plus or OnePlus 9 Pro will actually be dependent on your shooting preferences. But you know what? There are times when a product design just completely wins you over, and the Vivo X60 Pro Plus does just that. And the in-hand feel and the ergonomics are possibly the best I've experienced on a flagship phone this year. Therefore, the perfect phone for me, perfect Android phone for me, would be something that is in the Vivo X60 Pro Plus's design and offers all the bells and whistles that a OnePlus 9 Pro offers. Like for example, the wireless charging, the IP rating, all the shebang. Well, you can't get everything, I suppose. So that was our full review of the Vivo X60 Pro Plus. I hope you guys liked it. Do let me know in the comment section below if it helped you make a choice between the OnePlus 9 Pro and the X60 Pro Plus. And if you're still confused, then do ask me a question down below so I can help you specifically on your use case. Until next time, this is Eshar from MySmartPrice signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.